done, go ahead and turn to the person next to you and kind of share what you noticed with one another. So let one person speak for the first 15, 20 seconds, and then let the next person speak.
What you need to do.
Student to get all the time.
Seems like it does improve their confidence. Students. I notice how they set goals.
Boost the confidence for the student. Thank you, note for the parents. And I also noticed that.
And then that when they go like to
The teachers did split up the kids.
I think in
in
bigger schools, they do split up the kids, but that obviously is not going to be an option for us. It'll just be the 4 core teachers doing each
homework.
Yeah.
Instead of having to worry about every single student, having to leader for their homework,
And I guess that's where they should.
And we've kind of bounced back, ideas back and forth, we haven't really decided what we're gonna do. We had thought about breaking them up by homeroom and just having, you meet with your homeroom teacher. So we hadn't really decided yet as a team what we're gonna do.
Determine what they think.
But we do have
Say
several
rewarding,
options.
She said rewarding, like what was the most challenging, what was the most rewarding, how to do that, so I like that.
prompting reminding.
I think it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Alright, I heard lots of great conversation as I circulated throughout the room. I heard lots of you picking up on things that we are going to talk about later on. So if you guys don't mind, just kind of, let's have a few people share out some things that you noticed, some things that you saw, you thought were cool and interesting. Don't y'all, I'll talk
All the
time.
introductions were done by the student.
Okay, all introductions are done by the student. Okay, what else?
Very little input from the teacher.
Very little input from the teacher.
Learning targets and goal setting.
Yes, learning targets. And goal setting.
I thought it was very cool that she started the same way we would have, the teachers would at conference, that she started with the positive things or the things she was proud of, and then moved into the things that she needed to go with or needed more work on.
Okay.
We noticed that it's more of a conversation. It breaks through
Yes.
that awkward, how was school today? Fine. This is more of a conversation.
Okay, anybody else?
Gives the child a chance kind of to explain to the parent and have to, realize themselves, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I do good in, instead of coming straight from the teacher.
Yes.
It gives the students a chance to learn some professional behaviors and how to talk to authority figures in like a formal setting.
Okay, so yeah, kids are definitely learning people skills. Now, we teach middle school, they have people skills, but can they talk to a figure of authority? Can they speak in a professional way? We know they know how to talk. They do that all the time, just like us. But can they talk about things on a deeper level to someone who is an authority figure in their life? So yes, all these are great, and all these we're gonna talk about further. So thank you guys, give yourself a round of applause. Be great with our introduction too. All right. So, what do you need for student-led conferences? And the first thing is you need a clear agenda and lots of structure. So if you will, go ahead and unpaperclip your handouts. The first page you see is going to be Student-Led Conference Learning Targets. That's the specific title of it. And the last page is kind of a chart that's just general if you all want to use that. These are two great places to start. I'm sorry, you don't have any notes. These are two great places to start, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the video, the little girl references howls. Did y'all catch that she said that? Howls. So howls are habits of working and learning. So some things kids need now while they're with us and they're learning that they're also gonna need later when they start working or they're going to college. And those things we call 21st century skills. They need people skills, they need adaptability, accountability. All those things that we expect of them are gonna be needed in the future, you know, whether they decide to go to college or go straight to the workforce or even go to a trade school, they're gonna need those things. So the first page kind of gives you a list of learning targets. And so the first one is the howls. What are they gonna need when they're learning and when they're working later? And then the second one is content skills, which is more kind of school-based versus life-based. And then the last page of your handout with the chart, to me, this would be where I would kind of go to start my student-led conferences. So you see it has sections for assignments. You could do, you know, you could highlight 4 assignments in one core class. Or you could say, okay, for this student-led conference, we're gonna do 1 assignment from each core class. And so you can list those assignments there, you could list the learning targets, and you can have the kids rate themselves on where they think they fell between 1 and 4. So the kids would have their own copy of this, they'd fill it out themselves with our help, of course. And then at the bottom, they have some reflection questions. So what are some of your strengths this year? What are some of your weaknesses? What are some habits that you can change or develop to help you strengthen those weaknesses? So to me, this would be a great place, these 2 papers, to start if you were just starting out and you needed that clear agenda and that clear structure of what you were going to do. The second thing you need are identifiable learning targets. So the kids have to know what you expect them to learn during every single lesson. And they have to be able to understand that and explain it to someone else. They should also have several pieces of work in their student work portfolios. So it's better, you know, we always say it's better to have too much and then you can take some out versus having not enough and you don't have enough to show the parents. So I would recommend having maybe 4 or 5 pieces that you know you're going to use for student-led conferences, and then maybe letting them choose 2 that they did really well on and 1 that they didn't do so well on. So they can talk about their strengths and their weaknesses to their parent. And the last thing is student set goals. Now we can set goals for students all day long. Does that mean they're necessarily going to follow them? Some will, some won't. But if they set their own goals, then they're going to be more accountable for those goals because they're going to, first of all, they're going to know about them, they're going to have chosen them, and so they're going to be more aware as the year goes on of those goals. So that creates more accountability on their part of getting their stuff done and getting it done in the way that we want it done, in a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, it left me just that quick. But in an academic way, that deep level that we want, okay? So next, maybe I'm not going the wrong way. The role of the student. So what are your children gonna do to prepare for these student-led conferences during the student-led conferences? They're gonna prepare their presentation skills. So they need to know that they need to make eye contact. They need to know that they need to speak loudly and clearly. How many of you have had a kid, you ask them a question and they're like, and you have no idea what this is? We've all been there. And they're gonna do the same thing with their parent because this is a completely different way of conversing with their parent. They've never done this before. So we need to make sure that they know how to speak, how to make eye contact, all of that stuff. We also need to make sure that they're choosing work samples that show their strengths and weaknesses. So they have to be reflective. They have to do the work and then stop and think, okay, how did I do on this work? Was this something that I was really good at? Is this something that I may need to improve on? So they have to think about what they've done. They need to set achievable learning goals. We all know 15 students that want to be professional ball players when they grow up. Is that achievable? Not necessarily. While yes, we want to encourage them, they do need to set realistic, achievable goals. So if you have a student that's working on a 4th grade level, odds are they're not going to be on the 10th grade level when they leave you. And so we need to make sure that they're setting appropriate goals for the growth that they can make, because if not, they're going to leave your class and they're not going to be encouraged. They're going to be discouraged. And they need to practice beforehand, because I'll be honest with you, giving this PD is nerve-wracking. And I'm an adult, so I can't imagine being 12 and you telling me that I had to go sit down with my parent and talk about what I had done. That would be awful for me. So we need to make sure that each child practices their conference before the actual conference day. So that's the student's role. And in your handout, I believe it was the 2nd page, they're probably all jumbled up now, I'm sorry. But I believe I did give you a copy of role of the student. Alright, so next, what is our role as teacher in all of this? So one of our jobs is to help students choose their work. We have to help them to be reflective and say, okay, yes, I was good at this, or no, I wasn't so good at this, because they're not going to know how to do that right off the bat. So we're going to have to show them, we're going to have to model that kind of behavior, and we're going to have to check up on them and make sure that's what they're actually doing. We also need to assist in that goal setting, because you're going to have students who set very unachievable goals, unrealistic goals, because they're dreamers at this age. So we have to kind of kindly bring them back down to earth, make sure they're setting achievable goals, because again, we want them to meet small goals to build that confidence, to make them want to keep learning. And then the last thing is allowing time for students to practice their conferencing skills. So this is going to take a lot of time. It would take a lot of time if we just did them, but then when we talk about letting the kids practice beforehand, that's going to take a lot of time, but the practice is crucial to these student-led conferences being effective. And we can also give them during that practice time some tips and some tricks as to what they need to do. Like if they conference with us and they don't make eye contact, we can tell them to do that. If they don't speak loudly and clearly, we can tell them to do that. So it's kind of a way for them to get the jitters out, get the nerves out, and then they'll do better when they're actually talking to their parent. So again, that is our role. Now, next we have the role of the parent. So the role of the parent, and this is also in your handout, is listening and spending time with their child. Some kids, we know, don't get that at home. You know, mama and daddy, whoever, are working at night, they're home by themselves, they're having to take care of younger siblings, all this stuff. So this allows an opportunity for everything else to be on the back burner. They are going to sit, listen, and spend time with their child. And their child should have their full attention.
Chloe and Keely and Bristol, please come to the office.
The next thing that parents should do is ask probing questions. So it shouldn't be this conversation of, well, how was school today? Fine. Okay? The child is going to explain their work, what they did well, what they didn't do so well, and the parent should then follow up with some questions about that to get a further knowledge of that. And this is also going to give the parent a view of school through the child's eyes, because I feel like a lot of parents, they think their child is doing the same thing they did when they were in school, but that is so not the case. So this is going to let the parent get a true glimpse as to what their children are doing every day. Also, parents are going to provide reinforcement, encouragement, and praise. So it's very important that the parents do this, because that's going to help boost that confidence. Okay, if somebody is telling you you're doing a good job while you're doing it, then you're going to be like, yeah, I can do this. All right, I'm good at this. And that's going to help a lot. I would highly recommend sending home some form of role of the parent home before you have your parent conferences or your student-led conferences. Because if you just hand this to the parent and they're cold, they're not going to do as well as if you had sent it home maybe like a week before and they've had time to read over it, they've had time to think about it. So I would definitely send that role of the parent sheet home beforehand. All right, some of the benefits of student-led conferences. First of all, it holds these kids accountable. they have to be responsible, they have to assess their work, they have to evaluate what they did well, what they did not do so well on, and they have to reflect, okay, this went well, what can I do to continue doing well on this? This didn't go so well, what do I need to change, what do I need to add, what do I need to take away that's gonna help me to do better the next time? So it's really teaching them responsibility and accountability. And it brings about better instruction, because we can't just see the parent in the food line and be like, how's little Johnny doing? Oh, they're doing good. He's doing good. He may be. He may not be. So this is going to make us more aware of what every individual child is doing, and we just can't say, oh, they're doing good. We have to really know how they're doing specifically. And that's going to bring about better instruction, because we know that the parent is going to see the work that we provide. All right, some potential challenges that we may see. Lack of time to prepare. These are going to be a lot of front loading. There's going to be a lot of work that goes into this beforehand, and we're getting ready to start the fourth 9 weeks, so we're not going to have a lot of time to prepare this year. Next year we can start earlier and hopefully get rid of that challenge, but this year it's definitely a challenge. Poor logistical planning. So we don't want to overbook ourselves and have a bunch of parents there at one time and not everybody can be seen and parents are having to wait and all that jazz. So it's very important that we plan exactly how we want things to run. Another thing that we are going to face the first time we do this, maybe even the second time, is a lack of student pride. They've never done this. They're not going to understand the importance of this and how it's going to affect them. So we're going to have kids that don't care. They're not going to care that their parent is coming to see what they've done. The next thing is students describing their work. So simply saying, okay, well, this is a worksheet that I did in math, and it's all about long division, and that's just what I did. That's describing. They need to explain, what is long division? How did my teacher teach me to do it? Did I do good at it? Was it, something that I was good with? Or did I maybe need a little bit more practice, and I recognize that, and here's what I'm gonna do to try to solve that. And we also may have an issue with adults taking over the conference. So you're going to have some parents that want to be like, oh, well, little Johnny just said this and he did this, and they're just going to want to talk to you. But that's not what this is about. This is about the student talking to their parent. Not even really the parent talking to their student. They can talk to them a little bit, but it should be student-led. The main person talking should be the student.